All right, hello friends. Thank you for joining me again today. Let me make sure everything's all set up. There we go. Hello, my name is Dan. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to be finishing this painting that I started last night amidst much technical problems. And I think I have figured out at least part of the problem. And it's very simple. I need to buy a more expensive Mevo camera. There you go. All right. Enough of that. So, before I started broadcasting, just a few minutes ago. Oh, wait. Let's get legal. Let's get official. Daily Art Adventure number 723. Can you believe we're up to 723 already? Just yesterday we were at 700. Well, not exactly yesterday, but in the colloquial, as they say. Hello, Warren. Good to see you. And good to see Heather. Good to see you. Yeah. AV, good. Thank you. All right. And then the other thing I did, as you can see, is I took some of these oil sticks. This still makes me nervous, in case you're wondering. Dang, that really makes me nervous. But I've learned not to get too nervous because I have control. I'm about to do glaze on top of this. Okay, let me back up again, especially if there's anybody watching me first time or early first time. My paintings start out with several layers of transparent acrylic and opaque white. Layers and layers, probably 6, 7 plus pencils, and so on. And then after all that's done, I glaze the whole thing. Transparent oil. I switched to oil, do glaze. Then I do a fuzz layer. So my order has changed a little bit in the last 6 months. Be that as it may, I won't explain that. You regulars know what I'm talking about. So I do glaze, then fuzz, then drawing. So last night I got home about 11 o'clock at night. The last thing I did is I spent quite a bit of time drawing with brushes. Now, when I got this morning, I kind of went, oh, dang, I don't know if that ever happens to you. First of all, let me back up. Let's undo the dang and say happiness is having the drawing really nailed down. And this is a good drawing. I can't show you because I'm not downtown today, so I can't show you the scene, but I can show you a couple of the photographs of the scene. Let me try to get that right. There we go. All right, so there's one view I have another one right above me on the easel there. There's another one. And then I have over here on my left, I have several pictures of these cars, the particular cars that I was drawing. All right, so I'm well supplied with reference. So the good news is I like my drawing. There's a few little tweaks. Let me show you one of the tweaks. I was suspicious about the perfect verticality of this church steeple. So once I got into my studio this morning, now I often do this with a T-square. This is not a T-square, this is a triangle. But I held it up firm against the top and then took some black pencils and just drew me some guidelines. Okay, so that's another trick. It is not against the rules to use help. And those of you who paint seascapes, I heartily endorse the use of a T-square. Slap the T-square up and use that, because in a seascape, man, you don't want it tilted even the slightest degree. All right, so I did that. I also found one line right here that I'm not happy with, maybe two. These just a tiny tweak of perspective. Other than that, I think my drawing is in very good shape. All right. Now, this slap of the oh dang. I don't know what possessed me last night. I don't know why I did all this drawing. Actually, I do. Let me explain that. I don't know why I did all this drawing in black. Now, one of the reasons is because in real life, these stripes literally are black. This canopy is black. This canopy is black, and so on. But there's too much black down here. Oh, that's right. I'll fix it. It's not a big problem. But I wish I had drawn it in dark purple, blue, dark burgundy, things like that, instead of black. No big deal, but it is what it is, and I'll get over it. All right, now the fun starts. First of all, I did those marks. Now I'm going to start doing some glazing. That's the fun that I'm talking about. Glazing is always fun. Repeat after me. Glazing is always fun. There, there we go. Thank you. Glad we got that settled. And what colors am I going to glaze? Of course, any color that I want. Okay. Usually, this is what I make my students say before they do this, especially second day glaze. I expand so you can get the gesture. Fingers on chin. Beard if you have one. No beard if you don't. You say, well, I like it pretty well. And that's what you're supposed to say. Okay? The early journey painters really, hello Richard, thank you very much for that encouragement. Early journey painters especially, you need to abandon the land of self-incrimination and self-flagellation. Get out of that country. Don't ever go back. Okay, so that's why you say, well, I like it pretty much. I just wish it was more blank, and the blank is a color. It can't be more lighter, because what we're about to do in a glaze is darken it. So you can't say, I wish it was lighter. The more is usually a color. Now it can be, I wish it was more intense color, which is basically what I'm going to say about this right here. I like it pretty much. I just wish my colors were a little more intense. Now this is tricky. This is very tricky. Because as a matter of fact, especially as I look at my photographs, I know what color this building is. And this is virtually dead on the accurate color of this building. I did a really good job painting out there at night after dark. But reality and painting are not the same thing, right? That's two different things. Plus, this, what I'm about to do, of course, is not the last layer, not the last word on this painting. But this just feels a little pale to me. And the sky, likewise. I wish it was a prettier blue. And in this case, it's quite a greenish blue. I wish it was a little more ultramarine. So I like it pretty much. I wish the sky was a cooler blue, ultramarine, cooler. I wish this was a little bit warmer, even though, again, this is almost, and again, I have photographs and I have memory. This is darn accurate to the real color. I did a good job, but of achieving accuracy. But accuracy and good painting are two different things, all right? So, and then I want this down here. Hang on, I'm thinking. Generally cooler. So, ultramarine blue, maybe a tiny bit of violet, and I am helped in that regard with this print. By the way, you know, I have a phone, a camera downtown, a backup phone that's a camera. I take a bunch of pictures, probably 30 or 40 pictures. I email them to myself, or I get them off Google Photos, whatever. And in my computer, which is right behind me, right behind you there, I tweak them, of course, in Photoshop. And I know my screen, I know my iMac screen, and I know my printer. Both of those are necessary. So over the years, I've gotten accustomed to my screen, my printer, how they interface. So I'm very happy with the color of this. I'm saying that to say you can't always trust your printer, but with practice, you'll develop an experience. You'll develop, through experience, you'll develop a familiarity with your computer and with your printer. So yes, I like that color very much. And I was going to say that purple, I'm helped. There's a violet in this road. All right, so let's get going. I've said then that I'm going to do cool blue up here in the sky. Cool blue, remember, is like ultramarine. It's a blue with a little bit of purple in it. No. Or if you're going all the way back to primary colors, it's blue with a little bit of red in it. Now, just yesterday I talked about, well, if it's got red in it, doesn't it make it warmer? I'm not going to repeat it. I went through that whole lecture yesterday about True north warm is, I'll just say it this way, true north warm is yellow orange. If you get the color wheel, put yellow orange at the top, then either direction around the color wheel is cooler from that true north. Does that make sense? So blue is here and purple blue is here. Blue is here and ultramarine blue is it further, closer to the true north or further? The answer is further. All right. I said I wasn't going to do it and then I did too much of it anyway. Okay, so I've still got some ultramarine on these brushes, and I just added a little bit of violet. All right, let's do just a tiny bit of color theory here for a minute. You understand, don't you? This is an evening scene. The sun is setting essentially behind us as we look at this scene. All right. In the evening, as the sun goes down, the further the sun goes closer to the horizon, the more yellow, orange, red it becomes. The sun is whitest, even though it's yellow, still yellow, but it's the whitest at high noon. As it goes toward the horizon, it gets warmer, 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 right? And if the light source, I won't say sun, let's just say if the light source is warm, then by mathematical inference, the shadows are what? The opposite of warm. They're the absence, the antithesis, the negative of warm. So if the light is warm, the shadows are cool. If the light is yellow, shadows are purple. I'm going right across the color wheel. If the shadows are orange, the shadows are blue. And the light here is yellow-orange, so the shadows are purple-blue. It's simple physics. It's like a mathematical formula. It's not a matter of opinion or anything like that. Okay? So just to make sure. By the way, there's a lot of good people out there that teach color theory, and I frankly am not one of them. I touch on it occasionally, like I just did, but okay, it sounds like I'm being humble. Is David on? David, are you on? Okay, arrogance warning. Okay, Heather saying, is the right building in the sun and left in shadow? Oh, no. There's a shadow of a tree on this building, and there's a shadow of a tree on this building. So actually the right-hand side of both buildings is in sun. So the sun goes like this. And in fact, my photographs, earlier last night, I had this whole building in sun. And late in the process, I said, wait a minute, this painting would be better if this shadow, and I was right. So when I brought that across, the composition of the painting began to cohese much better once I did that. So I'm trying to see, am I finished with the bluish stuff here? Okay, so back to me not being humble. First of all, I'm admitting that I'm not really that good at teaching color theory, so I'm almost being humble. But the reason I'm not good at it is because to me, color mixing is so intuitive that I don't understand anybody that can't do it. Let me use an analogy. One time, 40 years ago, I started out as a music major. And at one point in my journey, I had a voice teacher. And this was actually at the master's level. I had a voice teacher. And he was a really nice guy. But I came to find out over the years later that he was not a good voice teacher. And this happens not infrequently in every area of human endeavor. The reason he was not a good voice teacher was because he was a fantastic singer. So he really couldn't relate to mere mortals like moi, who had issues and problems and so forth. in their vocal production. Now, it was only 1 year, no, a semester later, I had a different teacher, and this other teacher, even though he was an irascible old codger, and I really didn't like him very much initially, I came to like him, but he was a much better teacher. And anyway, so the point being, sometimes people who do things intuitively well, especially if they, so to speak, came out of the womb, like my first voice teacher did. He'd been a good singer his entire dang life. He was probably the little kid that got up, at the Christmas program and sang the Shepherd's Lullaby, or something like that. You know what I mean? So he was just really, really good. And that's kind of me and color. I remember so clearly. I remember like it was yesterday, sitting at the dining room table when I was 12 years old. I discovered color mixing, and I remember the feeling of like almost deific powers. A wave of deification came over me. And I said, oh my goodness, with just these three colors, plus black and white, I can mix and match any color in the cosmos. That was sort of it was one of those moments, okay? So you don't want me teaching color, because I learned it when I was 12, and I don't understand why anybody else can't do that. So anyway, just for what it's worth, there's lots of good people out there doing it. Please study them if you need help. All right, my glazing is done. Next, and it's safe to come back out, David. I think my arrogant moment of arrogance is past. I'll let you know when another one is about to show up. All right, next, I'm going to do some fuzz again. So this is kind of fun. This is a little bit different here. I already did one layer of fuzz last night and then drew on top of it. And here I am this morning doing a second layer of fuzz. I don't do that very often. I've done it a few times now, but it's not the norm. But golly, is it fun. Fuzzing is our friend. Repeat after me. Fuzzing is our friend. I'm going to start with, now I don't plan to fuzz necessarily quite as much. I'm hoping that makes sense to you. My fuzzing this morning is going to be a little bit more controlled and limited. Nevertheless, after doing that glaze a moment ago, I go, oh, you know what? Everything's a little bit too dark. And after all the drawing last night, everything's definitely too drawn. So one of the things I'm doing right now is de-drawing. Okay, we have these terms. If by too much drawing, I mean it's too many lines. So I like to make up words. So there's too much linification. I'm only making up that word so I can make up this next word, which is, therefore, at the moment, I am engaged in de-linification. Now, on my channel, we've had de-dotification for years. But I'm not sure we've ever had de-linification, but that's exactly what this is. Too many lines? No problem. Let's bring out the de-linificator. Okay? That's what this is. De-linification. Easy, easy, easy. Fast and fun. Which, I mean, what's not to like about fast and fun painting? I mentioned last night the composition principle, the composition rule that I am leaning on most heavily in this painting is what I call Mikey's rule, because I learned it from my good, he didn't make it up, but I don't care. Mikey's rule of composition. I'll repeat it. First of all, composition always has to do with the major light and dark zones in your painting. Okay? Mikey's rule is 3 values: light, medium, and dark. Light values, medium, and dark. 2 of those 3, either the light and the dark, or the medium and the dark, or the light and dark and the medium and the dark should be contiguous, touching. So my theory for this painting is the light area is all this up here. So this building needs to connect to this cloud, which needs to connect to this, almost said chimney, steeple, which connects to these clouds and to this building, and connects to this building. So the theory is here that if I can make those little connections, that it'll be a good composition. And I think that's going to work. And it actually does work amazingly well. So my lights are connected, and this down here is essentially mid-tone, and that's all going to be connected. Like there's some mids here, mids here, mids here. All right, that's all I'm going to say about that. That's enough. So that's the theory. You don't count little details. In composition. You don't say, well, here's a dark line right here. No, lines don't count. Even a little dark dot right here, that's probably too small to count, to figure into the composition. It's the zones, the big pieces, the large shapes. We're not talking about little tiny details. That's a hard principle for some people to get. I remember in art history in college, the professor pointing at large shapes in this medieval Fra Lippo Lippi painting. that really is a Fra Lippo Lippi, and pointing to us students, heads full of mush, and saying, see, you notice these shapes, blah blah blah. And I remember looking and squinting and kind of scratching my head and said, no, I really don't. I was too stuck in the details. My eyesight was too good, and I was looking too carefully. I needed to wait 40 years till my eyesight got worse, and then I could see the big shapes. I'm partly kidding here. All right, I'm going to come down here now and start working on fuzzing. Again, we're still fuzzing. I'm going to fuzz some of my midtones down here. At the moment, I'm mixing up a purple-ish blue. Uh-oh, my daughter is calling. I better get that. Hey, Alicia, what's up? I'm broadcasting. Yeah, but go ahead. What's up? Okay. Okay. Hang on. Yeah, that's all right. I got to. Okay, hang on. I'll do that as soon as I can. Okay, gang, you heard that. I need to run downstairs and help my daughter with an emergency. I'll be back. All right, hello friends, welcome back. As you can imagine, I took a minute to go rescue my daughter, and when I came back, my phone, my Mevo camera system, once again, went into failure mode. And indeed, it might. Anyway, so I did some research after I got home, all angry last night. And sure enough, the Mevo people, they have not announced this per se, But evidently they realized that when they released their product, they did it. I'm sorry, I want to use bad words, but they did a poor job. And so they released a new and improved Mevo, and it said more robust connectivity and doubled the price of the camera. So I got in during the old regime. I'm sorry, I'm just bitching and complaining now about Mevo. I cannot say enough bad things about their initial offering. And the fact that in their second go around they didn't admit that they screwed up royally first time around. I wish they had just said, sorry gang, that first thing we sent out was a piece of you know what. But they didn't. Anyway, so when I had to replace my first two cameras, I replaced them with this. Anyway, and you see, Mevo had functioned fairly well for me for the first 2 years. So I thought it was okay to continue with their initial Mevo camera. Well, now they have admitted only by saying, hey, buy the new one, it's better. And it costs $500 instead of $300. Actually, it was initially $600 instead of $300. And I said, what the heck? The old one was working fine. Anyway, turns out, so they've got me over a barrel, and I'm somewhat ticked. Again, I cannot say enough bad things, honestly, about the original Mevo company. And I hope to goodness that somehow I can get this message to them, because I am ticked off. They produced crap, and they should be, the capitalists, the free enterprise system should kick them in the balls for producing crap. Sorry. I'm sorry. You can tell I'm mad. So I'm almost managing not to cuss, but not quite, as you can see. I hope my mom's not listening. Anyway, that's the beauty of the free enterprise system. If you put together and release crap in the open market, you should get hell in return. Because that's the way it works. And if you produce good quality, you should get business and praise. So there you go. The Mevo camera, I'm assuming that their re-release is good, as they say it is, but of course. Anyway, so there you go. If anybody from Mevo is listening, you don't have hardly a customer on the planet that's used your product more than me, and I'm here to tell you it was a boatload of crap. All right, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, you guys. And I keep saying I'm sorry, yet I keep going. Let's try to. I'm here to be a positive influence on the planet. At the moment, I'm falling down on the job. I'm so sorry. Everything I've said is true, but perhaps I could have said it more nicely. Whew. Well, hello, Richard. Good, I'll try to clean up my act. It's too late, you're students. Oh, no. Don't tell me students heard everything I just said. Please. Students, I'm sorry. I'm momentarily angry, but I'll be good in a minute. All right, so I'm continuing. I'm angry because of a bad product that was released by the people that made my camera. All right, so I'm doing what I call the fuzz layer. Which is translucent color. Think about it for a minute, not to be confused with transparent, right? Transparent, translucent, opaque. If you just think about it for a minute, I'm convinced almost all of you know what those words mean, but sometimes people get confused. Now, what's translucent? I don't know why they get confused, but they do. Anyway, so now I'm doing translucent color with very loose edges. This is the second layer of fuzz layer that I've done in this painting. I want to bring up the value. Bright, that means bright, and I want to bring up, lighten the value. I'm working from several photographs. Last night I was painting on location. I started this painting last night on the street. And I take a bunch of pictures for just such a time as this, so that if I have to finish from photographs, I can. It's more fun to paint on location, but sometimes the circumstances just don't allow for that. I paint with two hands. You should too. Everybody should paint with two hands, in my opinion. I used to be much more generous and say, I only started painting with two hands about 10, 12, 15 years ago. Not 15, 12, 13 years ago maybe. So I was already 50 years old. I wish somebody had told me to do it decades ago. But everybody can learn to do it. It's just uncomfortable at first. But your painting and drawing improves immensely because you start using both sides of your brain or something like that. So this is probably the 9th layer, perhaps, on this painting. 9 layers down and about at least 4, maybe 5 to go, just to give this some idea. My painting technique is not at all traditional. Well, let me correct that. It is traditional if you go back 150 years and before. Almost all painters before 100 years ago painted in layers, as I do, layers of transparent color, saving the opaque stuff just for the end, like classic is Rembrandt. In the last 100 years or so, since the 1900s, the great majority of artists have moved toward opaque painting, straight out of the tube oil paint, and I'm different from them. Okay. And I'm different because I know that transparent colors are more interesting than opaque colors. And as I usually say, that's not a matter of opinion, that's a matter of physics and mathematics. In the physics realm, if you will. Yeah, let me find a different picture. A transparent color is far more complex than an opaque color. So that's what I mean by more interesting, more in the physics realm, more physically complex, richer. Anyway, there's a reason, the historical reason why opaque painting became all the rage in the last century. I do not reject the history, the process, what we went through. It was just something we had to go through. But in my opinion, now that we have all learned what painting is as a human race, we now know painting is not taking pictures, which it was for centuries, think of millennia. That the artist in town was the town camera, right? Before the invention of the camera. Who was the camera? The answer is the town artist. If your town had a good artist, you were in luck. If your town did not have a good artist, you were out of luck. Putting it a little too simply. What I'm doing right now, by the way, is not technically fuzz layer. What I'm doing right now is final edit layer. So I'm mixing it up. I'll describe that in more detail in just a little while. So I started this painting again last night and worked out most of the drawing in the course of the evening. That was Daily Art Adventure 7:22 last night. The broadcast quality was very bad last night. So I haven't even looked at it to see how much of it actually came through. But anyway, if you want to try to, it'll be less painful in repeat than it was to do it last night. I'm looking, as you can see, I keep looking up there at the photograph that I'm working from. Hey gang, I don't know Richard's class, I don't know where you are. I'm delighted, I'm honored that you watch. I don't know if you're still watching, but tell you what, I'll talk to you as if you are, okay? So I talked a little bit about the two-handed thing. I started that late in life. I didn't realize it was going to be an artistic game changer for me. I'd been a professional illustrator, artist for decades before I even thought about using two hands. But as soon as I pulled up and started forcing my left hand to paint, my painting improved instantly, even though my left hand was completely uncoordinated. I am now considerably ambidextrous, still not perfectly. I still favor my right hand, of course, but I'm way more ambidextrous than I was when I started. Yeah, thanks for liking the cars. Let me show you again some of the photographs that I have. When you're downtown painting, of course, cars are coming and going all the time. So I pick up a camera and take pictures, and then last night for the rest of the evening, for instance, this car is here, this car is here, and so on all the way down the line. Okay? This car is here, and so on. And so I because you can't keep changing cars midstream, and I find that I don't know cars well enough. I mean, I could make them up pretty good out of my head, but nah. Anytime you paint out of your head, out of your imagination, it sounds fun, and it is fun, but it's partly because it's lazy. Sorry to be blunt. Painting out of your head is lazy. It's just easy. Looking at stuff and copying it is some of the hardest mental work that your brain can do. If you want your brain to do brain ups, like push-ups for the brain, if you want your brain to do push-ups, you can hardly do any exercise more vigorous than drawing and copying. That's whether you're an artist or not. And it's hard work. You can tell it's hard work. That's part of the reason why part of us sort of rebels against it. It's like, no, let me just draw it in my head. So you see, that's the lazy way out. So anyway, I'm not drawing these cars up my head. I'm drawing them from reference, from photos that I took last night. Okay, I'm nearly finished with my fuzz layer. Not quite though. Oh, let me go back to some bigger brushes I was using earlier. Here we go. Again, I don't know if students are still watching, but some general descriptors of I call my technique abstract realism. I didn't make that up. A famous guy named I forget his name. I'll tell you in a minute. Come back to me. Famous other artist. I don't mean to, anyway, never mind. I'm not saying I'm a famous artist, but a guy who really is famous. David LaFell, that's his name. As far as I know, maybe he got it from somebody else, but he coined the term abstract realism. And essentially what it means is, first of all, there's no question that my paintings are realistic, right? I mean, you can tell these are cars, road, buildings, sun, trees, and so on. It's realism. But you can also tell, if you're paying much attention, like, couldn't he do a neater job? He must not be very good at realism because everything's all messy. No, it's called what he called abstract realism. What that means, and what I mean by that, is the all of the abstract elements. What are the elements of design? Line, shape, color, design, value, texture. I think I got them all. Line, shape, color, design, value, and texture. Those are the abstract elements of design. In an abstract realism, what I call my kind of painting, the abstract elements are paramount, you could say, are more important than the picture. Now, again, you can tell, I hope you can tell by looking, that the picture's pretty important. I mean, this is not a picture of, a safari in West Africa or East Africa, South Africa, whatever. Right? It's not a picture of a bowl of roses. I mean, duh. It's a painting of buildings in a town with traffic at evening, right? Sundown. I suppose it could be sunrise, but anyway. So realism for sure. But the picture is not paramount. The composition, the colors, the texture is paramount. Is more important than the picture. Again, but the picture's important. I spent a lot of time last night, and I'll be spending more today, carefully. Hello, Jody. Welcome on board. I spent a lot of time last night carefully, accurately rendering, working hard, working to try to basically replicate. I was standing on location last night, of course, but I worked really hard to try to accurately capture this scene. But again, the scene, as I usually use the word picture, which is, I'm mispronouncing the word on purpose. I don't know why. That's just what I do to try to make a point of the matter. That the picture itself is not the most important thing. All right, now I do something else very, very abnormal. I use pencils. They're made by Jerry's Artorama. They're called Jumbo Jet Black. They're what is called a wax-based pencil. They're sort of like a grease pencil, but not quite as greasy as a grease pencil. And it's very non-traditional, very non-traditional to use pencils in a painting. So I'm being very non-traditional. I'm sorry, I keep using the same word over and over. I keep thinking surely I'm going to come up with a different word this time. And I don't. So it is not normal. There we go. It is not normal to use pencils. But once again, I use them partly for realism, partly for drawing purposes, but even more important than that is I use the pencils to create an interesting texture. Right? Does that make sense? Drawing, yes, but texture even more important. That's part of the reason why, as you see me use these pencils, you see, boy, I'm handling them in an awfully, careless manner. First of all, I'm drawing with two hands, and so forth. So if it feels like I'm being sloppy to you, that's good. You're paying attention. Yes, I am being. Why? Because I like the look. I like the feel. Why? Because the realism of the picture is secondary to me. More important is, in this case, is the scratchiness of these lines. Does that make sense? The scribbliness, the looseness, if you will. Although just this week, and last week and this week, I have decided, by the way, Richard, if you're still listening, you maybe consider this, joining me in this revolution. I've decided that using the term loose painting is misleading to student painters, because when I call them early journey, that is, people who are early in their art journey or early in their painting journey. When early journey painters hear the word loose, they automatically assume that that means loose, careless, not very accurate drawing, right? That's what loose means. It means you just draw loose. And I have realized that students are misunderstanding that term. So what I'm going to try, the terminology I'm going to try to use now instead, I think for the rest of my life, is no. Tight drawing, accurate drawing with energetic brush strokes, or in this case, pencil strokes. Accurate, you see me again, I'm trying to be accurate. Now I'm not trying to be, what's the word, punctilious, tight. See, now I'm getting into the loose problem again. But for centuries, I think artists have used the term loose brushwork. And again, I think that is misleading to most students, most young, early journey painters, because they think, oh, I can paint, I can draw. And we are, the 20th century is full of paintings that are very poorly drawn. So instead of loose, it's energetic strokes. Expressive, maybe, but I don't like the word expressive, because too many people in our culture, most people in our culture, think that in art, artists are in the business of expressing themselves. Did you catch it? You didn't catch that gesture. Here's expressing themselves. Back of wrist to forehead. And that, in my opinion, is ridiculous. That is not, I am not expressing myself. Now it turns out, ironically, myself, I do in fact get expressed through my artwork, but I'm not trying to express myself. I'm just trying to do a darn good painting. I could care less. Not only could I care less, I positively loathe the concept of self-expression. Really? What makes you think we all want to know? I'm sorry, I won't finish that sentence. It just sounds a little too mean. We do care about you, kids. We do. But when you're doing art, you're supposed to be doing art. You're not supposed to be... I'm just going to leave that. Richard, I'll let you clean up this mess. I don't know if you guys are still watching or not. I'll let you finish that sentence for me, man. Thanks for teaching kids, by the way. I'm assuming it's young people you're teaching. Hey, up until now, I haven't had any people in this, any pedestrians. That's a silly oversight. So I want to be sure to put some people, not up close, kind of far away. I have just a tiny bit more of fuzz to do. Whoops. And that is some light coming out of the windows. And then I'll be moving on to the next step of the process. Which will be final edit layer, which used to be the final layer, but is no longer, but I still call it the final edit layer. Those are lights, by the way, that were actually there in the store underneath their awning. Right, now let's start some tail lights and headlights. This is always a fun part of the process. second graders. Thanks, Richard. I might have been talking just a little bit over the head of second graders, but I appreciate your company. Anyway, that's fantastic. Way to go. Thanks for teaching little kids art, Richard. That also explains why they like the cars. It is so cute. So I presume you have a different batch coming in every hour, Richard? More or less? That's fun. Thanks for letting me. Let me know, though. My goodness, if you're ever doing that, I will rein in some of my some of my expletives. I try not to go overboard, but sorry, I've had some really really difficult moments in the last day doing broadcasting. So really, if I know there's kids listening, I'll be more careful. I usually say I hope my mom's not listening, but now I have to add to that. I hope there's my mom and no kids are listening. All right, taillights. Some of my favorite stuff to do. You start out by making a big blob of red, large cloud of red, wherever you want the taillight to be. Then you just go in concentric circles, red, orange, lighter, 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 lighter. So it's real simple to do this. And then it looks like lights glowing, taillights in this case. Oh, I was going to do, too late. I'll start over in a minute. I was going to do some stoplights down there. There actually are stoplights. At that intersection down there. Should have been doing, and sometimes I do go lights, green lights, but not usually. Usually I find that the little red accent when I'm doing cityscapes, I sometimes do green, but more often than not I find that the point of red just fits in the painting better than green. There. Now I'm going to do one trick. I'm going to have to repaint. This car right here is moving. So I'm going to do this old, just smear the color and then reapply the bullseye, the accent again. There. I should have done this at the same time as you heard, but I forgot about the stoplights down here. So, wiping off these brushes. So if you want, here I'll bring you in real close for a minute so you can watch this. Again, for any of you that care about this trick for rendering lights that are glowing. Now, I also have to do, here in a minute, I have some headlights to do, because again, this is definitely a traffic scene, right? This is definitely a cityscape. So there's my red fuzz. It's smaller than what I did with the taillights up close, because of course the traffic lights are farther away. So my cloud of red is not quite as big. And here inside that is a bit of orange. Hello, Barbara. Glad you like the striped awning. So they're going to work. Eventually, they will look good. So inside the orange is a paler, yellower bit. And you can leave it like that. That's an option. But usually I do at least one step, I guess just with one brush. There. So it doesn't look like much up close, but when you back up, it looks like traffic lights and taillights. Okay, let's do some of the same thing now with headlights. Now, a lot of modern cars have, I think it's xenon bulbs. I think that's what they are. And xenon bulbs are a cool white, cold white, bluish white in color. In fact, sometimes when you're driving at night and a car comes up behind you with those xenon, Xenon, I think is the spelling, with those, you can actually mistake them sometimes for a police car, because in the flash in the corner of your eye in the rearview mirror, you see a blue light. And you go, what? Life in America, right? You take your foot off the gas, no matter how slow or fast you're going. But my point of saying all that is I am not going to paint xenon bulbs, okay? Even though that might be somewhat realistic, I'm going to do traditional, so warm headlights. That means the outermost glow is of these headlights is yellow, is a warm white. Let me see. Yeah, I think I want this car right here to have lights on. Okay, so it's important that you make it a glow, that you make a mess. You don't paint it real carefully. And then, of course, if there's a bright light there, then there's also going to be reflection on the road. By the way, I meant to come back and mess this up a little bit. Just never did it till now. Yay, Barbara. Good for you. Share it with us. Or with me, as the case may be. Okay, so now I'm doing a more intense application of that yellow. Now let's pick up some titanium white. Same drill, but instead of a red, orange, yellow, it's yellow, whiter, whiter. That's all for the headlights. And of course, the headlights are much brighter, so there'll be more bounced light here and there and here and there. And the very center of the headlights, yes, I'm going to commit the unpardonable sin, and I'm going to put pure titanium white. There's some people that would, and would argue with me about that decision. They say, no, pure white never appears in nature. Of course, this is not nature. And they have a point. They do indeed. And I don't always do it, but with the way this painting is going, I feel like pure white. I'll zoom in just a little bit more just for a second. There. Now, let me back out again. Every once in a while, a visually astute observer will say to me something like, like you guys talking to each other. An astute observer will say something like, "Oh, wait a minute. If the light part of the sky is this bright, I mean, it's not high noon, it's sunset, but if it's that bright, should the traffic lights really be that intense?" And I always love it when somebody says that, because I go, way to go, darling. You have an extraordinary sense of light and realistic light of reality. Because the fact is, no, absolutely not. What I'm painting here is without question an exaggeration. Now it always does surprise me a little bit that more people don't see it as an exaggeration. Most people will look at this painting and go, it's a beautiful evening, not realizing that the whole bottom half of the painting is too dark compared to how, you understand? But most people don't notice. And it's obvious, I hope, from everything I'm saying, that I'm doing it quite on purpose. This is not an accident. I am creating a fiction without apology. It's one of those tricks, and there are a number of ways. Sometime I should talk about this. There are a number of ways in which good artists are always painting what augmented reality might be one way to put it. Fiction, lies, non-truths are other ways to put it. There are many ways that artists do that, and most of the time it brings pleasure to the viewer. Most of the time. And again, not to give anybody a apoplectic fit. I love that old-fashioned word, apoplexy. Thomas Kincaid, of course, was a master of doing this very thing. That is fictitious lighting, exaggerated lighting. Of course, he was not the only one. Now, see, I do like saying good things about Thomas Kincaid, as you maybe know. It was a lot more fun when he was still living, but I like saying good things because all my snobby artist friends, snobby artist friends, again, have a seizure, and that any self-respecting artist would say anything good about Thomas Kincaid. So I like giving snobby artists seizures. That's the truth of the matter. But he, in fact, and again, I'm not here to criticize him, maybe he was put on the planet to do exactly what he did, and who are we to criticize? No? My biggest beef is that he made $1 gazillion and I didn't yet. But he's a classic case of, for him, the picture, and again I mispronounced the word on purpose, of course, the picture, it was in fact the paramount thing. See, that's why I'm afraid, and I'm afraid that I'm correct, that his paintings, his artwork will not fare well in the test of time, because picture paintings, again, picture paintings never do well over time, because the particular local, I mean that in the sense of time and culture, the forces that made the picture powerful at the moment the artist painted it will shift and wane and change, so that in decades to come, when the culture has shifted slightly, the culture is not quite as likely to find those pictures quite as powerful, quite as, what's the word I'm looking for? Doesn't matter. Riveting. Yeah, that's not the word, but it'll do for now. All right? We see this over and over and again through history. Whereas the artists, in my opinion, who are focusing on abstract elements, as I am, I'm not saying all this to defend myself or make myself look good, but I am trying to teach. See, my painting is honest, I feel. My approach to painting is getting very deep, fundamental, but I'll go ahead since I started. The abstract realism is honest, because what I am saying to the viewer is, sure, there's a picture of a city here. Sure, no question about that. No question. But as you can easily see, because if you're a person who's looking for hyper-realism, you're very irritated by my paintings. Like, oh, why did he do it neater? So as you can easily see, the texture, the colors, the composition, the lines, the shapes, the values are all paramount. That is more important. All of those issues trump the pictureness of the picture. Does that make sense? In other words, and in 1,000 years, I believe human beings will hardly be able to relate to this scene at all. I say, what are those things? What are those things? I'm exaggerating slightly, but you get the point. The culture will, in 1,000 years, have shifted so much that much of what I'm painting as subject matter will be opaque, psychologically or experientially opaque. That it's like, I don't get it. But what will not change is human beings' response to texture, line, shape, color, value, and composition. Does that make sense? That's actually one of the better ways that I've ever put that, I believe. So write that down, somebody. So that's what I mean by honest. Because I'm painting abstractions, the human race, and forgive me, I don't even want to get into an argument of defending this and saying, well, in the future maybe human beings won't feel the same way about color. Yeah, I know philosophically, but no, I reject that. Some of your basic premises. And it's not because I haven't thought about it, because I just don't want to be. I don't want to be bothered with it. I disagree with that. That's a very postmodern mindset, and yeah, postmodernism is destined for the dust heap of history, just like everything else. Softening up some of this overdrawn, as I drew it a little too much, so I'm softening up some of these edges just by making a mess. That's all you can say. And it's this kind of thing, these messes that safeguard you and me, the viewers, from falling into the mistake trap of thinking that the artist was focused primarily on picture. And again, for you non-English speakers, I am mispronouncing that word. In English, the word is picture, P-I-C, picture, T-U-R-E. So I'm mispronouncing the word quite intentionally. Why? It's just a mnemonic device. It's just a way to help people remember the difference between pictures and painting. That was clear as mud, wasn't it? In some ways, my approach to painting is very traditional, very typical. In what ways? In that my paintings are layers and layers of transparent color. In that regard, I'm like Rembrandt. I'm not saying I'm as good as Rembrandt. Anybody that says that needs their head examined. But in that regard, my technique is like his. That is to say, layers and layers of, it's hard to say that word fast, layers and layers of color. Now let me tell you in what way my painting is not at all like traditional, and that is very simply, in my painting, the underlayers are more vibrant and intense colors, whereas my finished layers are more realistic and muted. Okay, so it's the opposite. Rembrandt did earth tones underneath and more color on top. I do color underneath just because I like it. That's all. So I'm not trying to be, Rembrandt. I'm not copying him by any means. So in that regard, I'm very different from the old masters. And that's just I like it. That's all I can say. It's just, I just like it that way. You know what? Let me interrupt myself here. I mentioned a little while ago that I've been forgetting to put people in this, pedestrians in this painting. So let me go ahead and take care of that right now. I penciled them in a little while ago, but they're not painted. So I've got, yeah, they're about that tall. Sometimes I do a guy waving, or a woman waving, a kid waving. I haven't done that in quite a while, but I might do that here. Hand raised. One hand raised. Let me say, even though I said it so many times, that as soon as you put any number of people, so I've got one, maybe a kid, I'm not sure, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people of average height, that defines perfectly the literal horizon in the painting. So, and as you can see, if that's really the, in a minute I'll describe what literal horizon means, because literal and visual horizons are two different things. Okay, but the literal horizon is perfectly demarcated, perfectly defined. If you have a group of people, the average height of adults. If I, the artist, am of average height, which in fact I am exactly average. If I'm average height and I'm standing up, which again I am, then other people of average height standing up, that's the horizon. So this is the literal or technical, I could use the word technical, horizon in this painting. And all these vanishing points should be converging way out here, about 3.5 feet maybe up to the right of my canvas. And likewise, all these vanishing points should be converging at the horizon. Okay? But that's what I want to talk about mostly. So I think that's enough people. I don't want any up close. I don't think. Let me think. Hang on. Yeah, maybe one. Change my mind. Maybe one person here, kind of in the dark. Yep. All right. I've done this before. Forgive me if you've heard it, but literal horizon or technical horizon or actual horizon. An actual horizon or literal horizon is eye level if there was nothing in the way. So if we took away all these buildings, all these trees, all the buildings in the whole city, and in fact, and if we were standing either in the wheat field of Kansas or at the beach, North Carolina has great beaches, so you stand at the beach and look at the ocean. The line of the ocean is the literal horizon, all right? That's literal. And everybody knows the rule. Your horizon should be either 1/3 from the top or 1/3 from the bottom. So I'm a little bit high, but that's all right. I'm close enough because you could stretch these a little bit. In fact, you should stretch them just a little bit for impact. But that's literal horizon. There's also something called visual horizon, which means anytime there are major horizontal marks, lines in your painting, then that's a visual horizon. It has, so to speak, nothing to do with the literal horizon. The literal is right there. We know that because of all these heads. But there's, look at all these canopies right here form a line, right? It's real obvious. The tops of the buildings form a line. Even the cars form a line. And of course, there's down. We won't count that one because it's not horizontal. It just gets off far enough so we don't see it as a vertical line anymore. I mean, a horizontal line anymore. Right, so I have at least 3 horizontal marks here. Let me grab some paint brushes just for fun. So I have at least 3. I can only hold up 2. There's a line there, and there's a line there, and then there's a line there. So there's 1, 2, 3. And those have an impact on this rule of thirds as well. And happily for me, this line up here is almost perfect. It's at an angle. There's about 1/3. And there's, see, that's perfectly at the 1/3 point. Is that an accident? Are you kidding? Of course it's not an accident. Did I do that on purpose? Of course I did that on purpose, all right? Just want to be clear. Now this right here is almost dead centered. So let me see, I think the dead center of the painting is right there, right at the top. So that's actually dangerous to have a line that strong going right through the middle of your painting, except that it's augmented by this line. So do we see this line or this one in our mind's eye? What do we see? The answer is we don't see either one of these. We see that as a single about 2-inch wide line, and it's just barely low enough that it doesn't irritate us by being right in the center. Does that make sense? And then, of course, there's another line right here, this row of cars. Our minds perceive that as a line. And that, again, that pulls, so this whole mass right here. And again, here's the 1/3 point, maybe, right there. Look, it's just about perfectly between the top of the awning, that line, and the bottom of the traffic. Right halfway between, I'm going to put it halfway between the awning and the bottom of the cars is right there, and bingo. That's 1/3. So here's the literal horizon, here's the visual horizon. Literal horizon, and so plenty close enough. But that concept of the difference between the literal horizon and many visual horizons is really important. There has to be some knowledge and then some flexibility in your understanding of those two contrasting elements, if you will. Hello, Muskie. Good to have you on board. You missed last night, you mean? Good, you're lucky. It was horrible. I had so many technical problems last night. It was just, anyway. And I've had a little bit of it today. So evidently something in my camera has slipped a cog, because I've been using this camera for almost a year without really much any problem. And here in the recent weeks I've been having quite a bit of problems. So there you go. That's going the way of all flesh. Would be one classic expression of that problem. Part of the charm, I think, and that's a word I don't use very often. Let me use that again. Part of the charm of this scene, I believe, is the shadows, the play of light, the shadows on these two buildings. Let me pick up a photograph and again show it to you. Whoops, sorry. Hang on, I'll get it in the right spot. There, can you see it? You can even see it up close. You see that shadow? Whoa, forgive me. There we go. All right. Part of what drew me to this scene last night, I was driving around. I thought, maybe 5 points. I haven't painted 5 points in a long time. You know, so I found a parking place, jumped out with my camera, started walking around, and at some point I went, yes, this is it. This is what I want to paint tonight. All right. A really good question that the artist has to ask himself, herself, and has to answer is, what is it in the scene? What is it that's drawing me? There is, if you don't have to ask that right at the first moment. You look at something and you experience it with your whole being, with your intuitive visual. Something in you goes, oh, or something like that. All right, just a sense of pleasure. So then you can say, oh, that's it, I'm going to paint this. All right, you with me so far? But sometime after the initial, oh, that looks so nice, sometime while you're painting, you must ask yourself, so what was it? What were the elements in this scene that made me go, oh? Does that make sense? Because if you don't understand that, you're just painting blind. Like, why are you painting this scene? I don't know, I kind of liked it. If you don't know why you liked it, then you're very likely to miss what made you go, oh. Am I being clear? Am I being silly? Yeah, a little bit. Sounds like it. Okay, so you ask yourself, what was it that drew me to this? Again, I'm answering that question for you. Initially, It was literally this shadow on this building, and later this shadow on this building. I didn't realize it at the moment that I saw it. It was after, in later analysis, it's like, you know what? And I took a bunch of pictures. You know, I took pictures as soon as I got there, and then I continued taking pictures throughout much of the evening. Every time the light changed significantly, I would snatch up my camera and take another picture. That's just what artists do. I think, in my opinion, that's not unique. That's what artists do. So you take a picture because the light's changing all the time. And then this morning I looked through all those 3 dozen photographs and said, ooh, this one, ooh, this one, ooh, no, not that one. Okay. But anyway, my point being, you have to bring up to a conscious level what initially impacted you at really only a subconscious level. Let me well, hang on, I haven't said enough about that yet. So let me say some more. I just opened the topic. There is more. Here it is. What it is that grabs your attention with any scene, in my opinion, I'm saying this is an unguarded statement, so I'm going to have to think about this, but I think it's true. It is always play of light. It's always about the light. So I'm thinking to myself now, yeah, but what about the artist who, jumps out of his car, parks his car, jumps out with his camera, or, climbs up the mountain, whatever the case may be, or sets up a still life, and the artist who says, no, what really got my attention was, and I'm trying to think of something that's not light. It could be a color. What really got my attention was that one red awning. There are no red awnings in this painting, by the way, but if there were. What really got my attention was that green awning. And I'm going, Okay, here's my initial reaction to that, to an artist saying something like that, is, forgive me, no, I doubt it. I doubt it. I doubt it. You just thought it was a green awning that was arresting your attention, your heart. It made your heart leap or heart jump, to use romantic language. I'm going to say probably not. And I had a good art teacher many years ago that, for instance, just on that particular topic, now I'll stay on it for a minute, but he said, values do the work, color gets the credit. What he was saying was, it's actually the values, the light and dark, or in my language, it's actually the play of light that is arresting your attention, that is making your heart leap. It's actually play of light, but you mistakenly think it's color. Okay, so that's what I'm going to say to that. Okay, let me give another example. So when an artist says, no, it wasn't the play of light, it was the color of that turquoise car. It was that bush. It was that lime green bush that got my attention. And I'm going to say, no, I'm going to throw a flag on that. Say, no, I don't think you're right. I'm not God. I can't prove this, but I think most of the time, no, it wasn't the turquoise car or the lime green bush. It was actually the light that was hitting those things. All right, now let's think of another example. So what I'm saying to you is, what really gets your attention when you pull up and look at any, again, I'm using the analogy of driving. When you pull up and start running around, or if you climb the mountain with your camera to take pictures, to paint, or whatever, or you have your easel on your back, whatever the case may be, and something grabs your attention, I'm contending that it's always play of light. But I'm trying to be my own devil's advocate and say, well, wait a minute, is that really true? So I'll tell you, I think it is true, but I'm trying to work through. What if somebody says, no, it wasn't the play of light at all, and it wasn't color, it was subject matter. It was what arrested my attention, what made my heart jump was, in fact, I'm trying to think of a thing. Okay, you're out in the pasture with your plein air. By the way, I lost it. Here it is. I dropped a brush. I couldn't find it. You're out in the pasture with your plein air easel on your back, or wheeling in a cart behind you, or whatever, right? Or your camera, at least. You're looking for stuff to paint, and you see this cow at a certain position with a certain expression on his or her face. Bull cow, okay. Bovine of some kind. And you say, oh man, look at that expression. I've got to capture that cow with that expression on its face. So what do I, Dan Nelson, because I'm contending that you're wrong. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that. What if someone says, no, it wasn't about the light. It was about the expression on that cow's face. Okay, what would I say about that? Now, put your seatbelt on, because this is going to sound a little bit mean. Okay, first of all, who says such a thing? I have an answer to this coming up. Who says, it was that cow that got my attention, and that's what made me drop my snap a picture with my camera. That's what made me drop my easel and start setting up. It's like, I got to capture that cow. Okay, I'm throwing a huge penalty, red flag on that one, even bigger than the last red flag. I'm going, here's who says that. Do you know who says that? It's real easy. It's real simple. It's somebody, and this is not mean, because most of us started here, but it is clearly somebody in the first half of their art journey. It's somebody who's still in the process of learning to paint stuff that looks like stuff. In other words, it's a sophomoric artist. It's a beginner artist who says, oh, it was the thing. It was that red flower I had to capture. The flower, it was the dead flower. It was the dead, okay? It was the dead tree. It was that bare tree that's what. And all of those are the expressions of people who are about to commence doing, in my opinion, an immature painting. Oh boy, I'm in trouble. Okay, what do I mean by mature? And again, here we go. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to say, all right, anybody that doesn't know what I'm talking about, like, what do you mean immature? I don't get it. If you don't get it, then you need to go back on my channel last Wednesday or Thursday, to Daily Art Adventure 716, a lesson in real painting. Okay? That's where I explain what I mean, where do I get off, how do I have the nerve, how can I say such a thing, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I said it in an hour and a half last Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday. I probably, as soon as I have the freedom in my schedule, I'm going to actually edit that video. I actually had 2 cameras set up. I'm going to edit that video into a production piece, if you will. So I have a sense I'm going to be pointing people back to that lesson for many years. All right, enough of that. I'm just going to, here's the bottom line. What really arrests your attention is always play of light. Again, I'm still willing to wrestle with, is that really true? I'm still willing to consider that it's not. But I will tell you that if you're an early beginner painter, I will listen to you, but I'll understand, I'll probably be nodding condescendingly while I'm just going to tell you, I'm probably going to go, oh, you poor chap. Still first half of journey. So that's my description, and there's no shame in being in the first half of journey. Okay? No shame at all. By the way, have you noticed? You guys are conversing. Hello, Uncle 60. I saw you were here. Yeah, it's feed today. I know it. Now, Horatio, I don't know if you heard me say after last night's fiasco and trouble, I did get back. I did get back on Mevo website, and here's what I know happened now. When the Mevo company came out with their first camera, it was a great idea, but they very quickly discovered that they did a crappy job. What was the word they used? I'm forgetting, so I'll tell you later. But so they very quickly released, Mevo Plus, because they realized, so that this is, I'm putting this all together now. They very quickly realized that they had screwed up with their initial offering, so they began producing and offering Mevo 2 for, yes, twice as much money. Okay? Now, I had not had any trouble with Mevo 1. This is my third camera, and I've been doing it for over 2.5 years now. But what they told us when they came up with Mevo Plus is like, oops, you know what, gang? We screwed up with Mevo 1. And that's what I own. I own a Mevo first issue. So anyway, Horatio, that's what's going on. I'm absolutely sure that that's what happened. And so last time I had to reorder a camera, I stuck with number 1 because I hadn't had any trouble. But now I've had a whole bunch of trouble, and if I call them up and say, what's going on? They'll say, oh, you know what? You need to buy Mevo Plus. I know that's what they would tell me. So anyway, so I just need $400 laying around somewhere to invest in it. All right, so I've been talking blah, blah, blah. What was it that appealed to me? And I said it's always play of light. Even while I'm saying all that, what am I doing? Bazingo. In fact, let's bazingo this even a little bit more. Blasto. Ipso blasto facto. What am I doing? Play of light, by the way, let me just be clear. Play of light does not equal, / play of light does not equal which way is the light coming from. All right? That is not play of light. That's boring light. That's boring question. Elementary. You have to get it right, but you don't get any credit for getting it right. You just get kicked out of the game for getting it wrong. Okay, so I know that many early journey painters, they sweat and struggle and strain over. They forget to remember, oh, that's right, the light's coming from, or they forget to make it plain, and so on and so on and so forth. And the reason I'm, as a teacher, being kind of mean and nasty and saying I will not give you any credit for getting that correct is because if I give you credit as an early journey painter, you will sit back, lean back, pat yourself on the shoulder, so to speak, on the back and say, I got it right. And you'll sort of let down your guard thinking you've accomplished something. So I don't give credit for that. I will criticize you for getting it wrong, but I will not give you credit for getting it right. Oh, I'm so mean. Because I want you to press on till you actually do accomplish something worth noting, which is creating play of light. Okay, but I was just going to say, I mean, come on. Yeah, I mean, you're used to if you're my regulars, you see this all the time. But is this or is this not a Dan Nelson painting? And what makes it so play of light? I mean, look at this. It's all about play of light. I'm not bragging. I'm not showing off. I just want to point out the obvious. And point out, at least to some extent, that I indeed practice what I preach in this regard. That it is all about. This is an exaggeration statement. Okay, this warning, exaggeration. It's all about play of light. It's not really. There's other stuff too. So, but I told you it was an exaggeration, so I'll let it stand as such. Okay, to make the point, just to make the point. It's all about play of light. That's not literally true. That's hyperbole for the sake of didacticism, for the sake of teaching, right? Uncle 60, I've enjoyed looking at your portrait. So answer me this question. Oh, here we go. Now, in the world of portraiture, is it all about play of light? And I'm going to throw a curveball. The answer is no. It's all about capturing a likeness. Oh, darn. Now, many will argue with me about that, and that's perfectly fine. I'm willing to be argued with. And that's not a hill I'm going to die on. But you've got to get the likeness. Unless you're doing a weird Picasso portrait, which we're not talking about that. So you have to get a likeness. After that, what's most important? The answer is play of light. If you want to win a competition, nobody in my room, that is to say me, is anywhere close to winning a competition at the National Portrait Society. Okay, I wish I were a fish. Thank you, Don Knotts. No. But I do know enough to know that the people who win at such things are not people who merely capture a likeness. They're people who do magical, mystery, wonderful, extraordinary things, mostly with play of light. And again, we've talked a whole bunch in the last week. I've talked about Christian Hook. He's a new discovery for me. I think it was Jane, forgive me, I can't remember. I think it was Jane who mentioned him, and I looked him up and my jaw hit the floor, just like everybody else's jaws hit the floor when they see his work. Does he capture likeness? Yep. Okay, but that's not what it's about even. So in that case, it's play of light and color and all kinds of crazy stuff. Where's my fan brush? It's behind me. Hang on a second. Everybody knows, everybody who's watched, oh, my fan brush is even broken. I keep thinking I'm going to fix that. Look at the bristles come out completely all in one piece. There. That's one gnarly old fan brush. Anyway, everybody who's watched Bob Ross knows how to use a fan brush. You make pine trees with it. You hold the tongue. That's pine tree. That's what you do with a fan brush. Okay, but that's not really. You can do all kinds of things with it, but what I'm going to do with it right now is just smear paint. Lots of different tools for smearing paint. Finger, rag, brush, regular brush, all kinds of stuff. Spatula, palette knife. But fan brush is one. Hang on here, I gotta go close the door. The grandchildren have returned home. Yay! But that means there's a little bit of noise and sometimes crying going on. So, I don't mind the noise. I don't want to have to deal with crying when I'm painting. All right, gang. My phone battery is dying, so I hope that I'm not going to get noise now. Let me give it a quick test. Test 1, 2, 3. Let me listen again. No, not too bad. There might be slight noise, but nothing I can do about it. The alternative is to quit broadcasting. So, sorry about any noise you may be hearing. Static. Now here in my studio, I really could do with a noise cleaning device, Horatio, that you sent me. It doesn't do any good though out in the field where I'm using battery packs. Anyway, so yeah, I'm beginning to like this building. It's beginning to do what I want it to do. Almost here, almost melancholy, moody-ish lighting happening here, which I am quite happy with. And that has somewhat to do with the muted grayish colors and the soft. I don't want to do too many hard edges over here. The softness of the edges. Let's go ahead and do the stripes on this awning as well. Not coming down quite as far. Yeah, I think that works. Palette next time. Ah, I got two palette knives. Not the one I want. Where is it? Where is the one I want? Well, let's go through a bunch of stuff. Oh well. Use the one. It's not my favorite, but it'll do. Whoops, that's too intense. Scratched. The scratch was very effective. The scratched out more than I intended, however. Alright, that looks good, I think. Let's continue to work on this face of this building. So pretty much all of this sunlit part of the building was all done with the same color, which of course is a violation, right? Because it creates a visual monotony. Our eyes do not enjoy discerning that, even if our brain doesn't know what's going on. We don't like seeing the same colored paint sort of dragged across much of the canvas. It creates an unpleasant feeling. So, real easy to fix. You mix up a slightly, you've heard this before 100 times, slightly lighter. So I just added a little bit of titanium to that pile of paint on my palette, and add a slightly lighter. Now in this case, I usually say it doesn't matter where you put it, but in this case it's so obvious that, you know, the sun is hitting this corner of the building and then fading. So yeah, my light is definitely toward the upper right edge of this building. I wouldn't want to necessarily punch a piece of light stuff right there. Having said it, I did it, but I'm going to diminish it because my intuition corrected. My initial intuition was correct. Let's stick with this this building for a little while. Let's work on these awnings. This is tricky. Let me show you the photograph again, so I hope you can see it up close. There, do you see those awnings? Too close, maybe. Alright, You can see the stripes though, right? The stripes on the side are facing us, so they're large and easy enough to render. But the stripes are over here are much finer, of course, because they're facing away from us. And how am I going to render those stripes? And I don't exactly know. I'm probably gonna have to fiddle with it a little bit, because what may I not do? What would be the wrong thing to do? What would be to take a small brush, even like this one or smaller, and just stick out my tongue and paint those stripes, right? That would be a disaster. Well, you know one of the principles, all right, are the stripes in this awning, are they not a highly repeated or oft repeated or highly repetitive motif? Is it not the same thing repeated? The answer is absolutely. That's exactly what it is. It's stripes. That's what stripes are. Line repeated. So therefore, we kick into what principle? Well, we kick into looking for the palette knife. Don't tell me I'm going to have to run all the way downstairs. Here's, by the way, some of my... There's supposed to be a palette knife in there. There were 3 palette knives in there. I found 2. Did not find the one that I wanted. So it's very unusual for me in this place. But I really do want to use. Why don't I want to use this palette knife? The answer is because this is a curved edge. All the edges on this palette knife are curved. And then I have another one here. It's tiny. These are straight, but it's way too small. I could do a little bit with this one. Okay, so I was going to say the principle is repeated, highly repeated shape, motif. We must come up with a variety of techniques for rendering those stripes, right? All right, now forgive me. There's the rest of my office. I am going to run downstairs to my studio downstairs and get the palette knife. Okay. Alright, sorry about that. Here's the palette knife I was looking for. Oh, is my microphone working? It is not. Hang on. That's weird. Alright, let's try it now. You wouldn't believe the goofy stuff I have to go through. I think I might... Alright, is it there? There! That is crazy. The mysteries of technology. Alright, so I have this palette knife. This is, by the way, just for what it's worth, is my favorite palette knife of all time, because it has 3 straight edges, 1, 2, 3, long, short, and medium. So that you don't have to like this one at all, but just in case you ever wondered. All right, so I have this palette knife. And my mic has not been working for a while, has it? Now that I've got it working, I realize it wasn't working. Okay, one more stripe. That's not bad, but it's not quite good enough either, in my opinion. For one thing, and I'll bring you in here real close since I'm really belaboring this detail. Hang on just a second. All right, not bad, but not quite good enough either. It's a little overdrawn. Okay, so anytime something's overdrawn, you can just scratch it and maybe sometimes de-linify it, right? Use a term I invented earlier this morning. Okay, now I'm just painting gently messy on top of what was already there. Now that might, well, I'll tell you what I'll tell you what I was going to do, and I'll do a little bit of it. This now sets up an opportunity for scratching. Yeah. Remember, repeated pattern. Anytime there's a repeated pattern, you must come up with more than one technique for indicating or executing or rendering that repetition. All right? So far, I have how many techniques? I painted light stripes. Then I did palette knife light stripes. Then I did a overall area and scratch. So far I've got 3 different distinct methods for executing this particular problem, right? I'm going to do one more, and that is, at least one more, and that is when I'm mixing up a lighter color. I'm going to use it to paint light stripes on top of the darker blob I put down a few minutes ago. Ooh. One more, even slightly lighter still. Ooh. I'm saying, ooh, this is nice. And again, all you artists understand this. When an artist says something like that, I'm not bragging or saying, oh, I'm so good. It's more an expression of surprise, like, oh my goodness, this is actually going to turn out. It is turning out, but okay, let me back you up now. It led to another. I wasn't sure about the canopy actually comes down like this and then has a front face, and I wasn't sure whether that I was going to actually accurately render that front face or not, but I just decided that yes, I am. So more of the same problem, related of course. The front face of this canopy is striped or striped. I never did understand the difference between those two. Ooh. The voice of a pleasant surprise or discovery. I'm going to. So how many techniques have I done now for doing the paint, palette knife, scratch, and highlight? 4. And I'm about to do technique number 5, which is I picked up a small, fairly small, which is dangerous, you know, a small synthetic brush. So now I'm painting the stripes in positive, right? So I'm painting dark lines. So that gives me, I think, technique number 5. I didn't intend for this to be a clinic on, you know, whatever we're going to call it, multiple techniques for rendering repeated motif, but that in fact is what it's turned into. But that's a good lesson. Now it's just a little bit overdrawn. So very often just scratching it will diminish the tightness of it. And then if there's any part of your scratch that you did very quickly without thinking that you don't like, it's an easy fix. One dot right there. One dot right there. Whew. All right. That was a bit of an ordeal, wasn't it? That's what happens sometimes. You all know that. At least for now, I'm going to declare that awning, that part of the awning, finished. Going back to this face though for a minute, just hit a little bit of light. Nope, not a pleasant line, not a pleasant scratch. Do you catch that little trick? Scratching is good. You have to do it quickly, but just because you do it quickly doesn't mean you have to settle for whatever that scratch produced. Right? The scratch is they're also easy to fix. Well, that took a while, didn't it? Would the observers, were the people that look at my painting, would they look at it and say, man, yeah, they probably would, actually, if they thought about it. Because most people, of course, generally speaking, not artists, think that artists spend weeks on this stuff. And of course, some of them do. We have a name for those kind of artists. It's called starving. Okay, that's funny, I can't believe I didn't notice it till now. I have a coterminous, two objects ending on the same spot. I have this power line, telephone line, or whatever it is, coming here, and it ends right at the, whoops, that was a mistake. Ends right at the end of this awning, and it's not a pleasant coterminous. So let me try to diminish that a little bit. That might be enough, maybe. Hear my confidence. That might work, maybe. And I've got another line coming that way. All right, tell you what, I'm feeling a little bit of, hello Karen. Yes, Uncle 60, you are the master retractor. I agree. What is it that you're always saying to us, Uncle, and then pulling it back? It makes us wonder about you. Yeah, just a little bit more light. Just a little bit more light up here. Yeah. All right, I was going to say, I'm feeling just, for some reason, this broadcast has gone on for a long time. I still have quite a bit of work to do on this painting, but I'm sensing what I might call broadcast fatigue. You thought I never had that feeling, did I? And I don't very often. But again, I don't want to bore you guys to death. So I am going to paint alone. I'm looking at my painting and thinking, I am liking it. Some of the big changes, Uncle 60. I will. Camera fund. Thank you. He's probably serious. Thank you, Uncle 60. Just a couple comments. Where am I going from here? Of course, I need to finish this awning, but not so that it looks like that one. There's a principle in music, in classical music, all music really. There's repetition, like a verse, then a chorus, then a verse again, and a chorus, and so on. In classical music, it's repeats, repeat, first ending, second ending, coda, and so on and so forth. One of the rules in classical music in particular is that, after playing through this Bach prelude one time, you come back and do it a second time. You don't play it the same way you did the first time. There's subtle little differences. And this is kind of an example of that. I mean, it would be, I'm overstating the case, but it would be a disaster if I painted this awning the same way I painted that one. Right? First of all, this one's closer to the shades. It's going to be slightly darker, and this one even more so. But this one is closer to the focal point, center of interest. So, but anyway, I've got all that to do. Quite a little bit of subtle detail in the cars. I don't want the cars jumping forward. The focal point is here, not here, in spite of all the taillight energy down there. Punctiliar light are right. Human eyeballs are inexorably drawn to punctiliar light. Boy, have I got that going on. But not just there, also up here. One of the things that needs to happen is I need to have the sky lighter without overdoing it, coming across here, so that all of my lights are touching. That's Mikey's rule for composition, which I've talked about twice. All my lights up here, midtones down here, and the darks are scattered throughout. Right? So that's where I'm going. I will bring you back in for a separate broadcast this afternoon when I'm ready for your company. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking again. All right, fair enough. Thanks all guys for all your wonderful chats. Oh, you want to? Oh, good idea, Susan. Let me pick you up and show you up close before we go here. Thank you. All right, so lots of glare. I really do like the traffic. When I finish these cars, right now it's just like all blue and red, and there needs to be a little tiny bit. Again, I want everything here to be mid-tone. Little bits of light. That doesn't count as, that's not a zone, that's just a spot, okay? But I want this to be mid-tone, so it needs to come up light-wise a little bit. This was an accidental last-minute decision, and I'm tickled with that. I really like that. But mostly the star of the painting, what drew me to this scene in the first place, was the shadows and the sun on these two buildings. And the chimney, I did say it. The steeple also is a very significant element, and then it can't be as detailed as this, of course, but it needs to be brighter than it is right now. All right, thanks guys, appreciate it. Enjoy your company. Y'all go paint now, okay? Whoops, forgive me. There we go. Y'all go paint, and I'll paint. We'll gather again, maybe later today, probably. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.